I was ready to rinse off when the door creaked open, revealing my nephew standing there, his eyes wide with amazement. I froze as the hot water ran down my body, leaving me feeling chilly. Catherine. I like how this is stretched out and hefty. Why hadn't he knocked me out? My heart raced. This wasn't how things were meant to be. It seemed like the universe had changed under me, and I wasn't sure what to do next. I could do something none of us had ever imagined. What the hell, Aiden? Confusion. He didn't answer right away. He seemed lost in the moment as he tear-hearted in chest, and for a moment it felt like I couldn't breathe. Why hadn't he left yet? This moment? This unexpected encounter was already beginning to feel like it was out of control. Aiden stood there, frozen in place. His breathing was shallow, as if he too was trying to process what had just happened. I could see his lips part, as if he was going to say something, but nothing came out. It was as if words had abandoned him. I wanted to scream to demand that he leave, but something inside me held me back. My heart raced in my chest, every inch of my body screaming for him to leave. Yet there was something about the way he stood there so close that made me hesitate for a long moment. We just stared at each other. I could feel my body reacting to his presence, though I tried to suppress it. It was wrong. Everything about Ike P. themed me not. You expect there was something more in his gaze, something deeper. I had seen that look before, but not from him, not from someone so close to me. Catherine. His voice was barely a whisper, almost as if he was testing the waters. He was still standing there, unmoving. I didn't mean to, but it was clear he was struggling to find them. I could feel my emotions churning inside me, a mix of anger, confusion, and something else I didn't want to admit. My mind was telling me to push him away, to tell him to get out and never come back. But my body, my instincts were betraying me. The tension between us, chaos inside, filled with something I couldn't quite understand, an intensity that both unsettled and intrigued me. What's wrong, Catherine? He asked, his voice laced with an almost unsettling calmness. You've never seemed so distant before. What's going on? The question hung in the air, and for a moment I was paralyzed by it. Why hadn't he left? Why was he respecting my space? My privy? Something about the way control? Would you dare to know what's next? What's going through Aiden's mind? Like, share, and subscribe to find out what happens. I could feel the heat of Aiden's gaze burning into me, and despite myself, I couldn't pull my eyes away. I had always seen him as just my nephew, innocent, younger someone who was supposed to be a distant part of my life. But now, with him standing so close, the air felt charged, as if something was shifting between us. I felt vulnerable, exposed, but at the same time I couldn't deny the strange pull. I felt Catherine. He voice, lower time. It was no longer filled with confusion. Now it carried a hint of something darker, something I hadn't expected from him. You're not telling me everything. I swallowed hard pound to tell him to leave, but I couldn't find the words. I couldn't understand what was happening to me. Why was I still standing there in this moment with him so close? Why was I letting this continue? I tried to turn away, but his presence was overpowering. He took a step forward, closing the gap between us. The water from the shower splashed onto the floor as I stood there. I had something that I couldn't quite describe. This is incorrect, but Aiden did not seem to care about what was correct. His hand extended out, his fingers barely brushing against my arm, causing an unexpected thrill through me. I want you to stop pretending, he whispered quietly, his eyes on you. I had a peculiar feeling of danger, like if I was standing on the verge of something I couldn't control. The tension in the room was oppressive, and the quiet was deafening. All I could hear was the sound of my own short, irregular breath. Was this really happening? Was he my nephew, whom I had always kept at a distance? Why was he here? Why did he do this? I opened my mouth to demand that he go, but no words came out. The intensity of it drew me in. He was no longer the I known. He was someone else. I could feel Aiden's fingers lingering on my skin, an almost electric touch that sent a wave of conflicting emotions. Rushing through me, my body was betraying me, reacting in ways that I couldn't understand. I wanted to push him away to scream him to leave, but something inside me was frozen. Unable to move, his never left mine. Dark and intense, he took another step closer, his presence overwhelming. I felt trapped in this moment, in this space, between what was right and what was becoming impossible to deny. "Catherine," he whispered, his breath warm against my ear. "You can't keep pretending. Everything is okay. You've been shutting me out for too long. I see it in your eyes every time we're together." My mind was racing, thoughts swirling in a chaotic mess. What was he talking about? What did he mean by shutting him out? I had always kept a certain distance, but this was different. This felt like it was no longer about it felt personal. All I could do was stand there, frozen in place, every telling me to run, but my feet refusing to move. Aiden's hand moved slowly down, light but intentional, like he was sent a message. I wasn't ready to hear. "I know you feel it," he said, his voice almost coaxing. "You've been so cold, but I can feel what's between us. I know you want this." The words hit me like a punch to the gut. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Was he serious? Was he really saying that my chest tightened and my heart raced even faster? This couldn't be happening, but the way he was looking at me, the way his hand lingered on my skin, it was as if he had already made up his mind about something I wasn't ready to face. "You need to leave," for him to get out to leave before something I would regret. Breath catch in my throat. "You don't really want me to leave, Catherine," he said softly. "You just want to convince yourself that you do." I couldn't believe it. How had we gone from an innocent family moment to this unbearable tension? Would Catherine be able to stand firm, or will she give in like share and subscribe to find out how this dangerous game unfolds? I could feel my heart pounding in my chest as Aiden's words hung in the air. His face was so close now, his breath mixing with mine, and all I could do was stand there trying to steady myself. I didn't know how we had gotten here. How this moment, this ulnar creamy without uter now, almost as if he was speaking the truth, the words sent a chill down my spine. But at the same time, a strange part of me felt. I swallowed hard, attempting to collect my thoughts, but everything inside me seemed cloudy. I wanted to urge him to stop, but I had a bad feeling in my gut. A no, of confusion, which made it difficult to think properly. Why am I still standing here? Why didn't I push him away? I'm not sure what you believe is going on here, but this is incorrect. I managed to speak above a whisper, but Aiden listened. He was too near now, his palm softly cupping my chin and his thumb brushing against my skin in a manner that made my breath catch. It seemed as if a calm, constant pressure was developing between us. "You know," he voiced Sue. "He were trying to convince me of something. I think you've been waiting for this moment just as much as I have." I shook my head trying to pull away, but he wasn't letting me. "No." I said more forcefully this time, This isn't us. This isn't what we're supposed to be." But even as I said the words, I could feel the distance between us shrinking. His eyes were on mine, searching, and there was something in them, something dark, something that made me wonder if I was making a mistake by push him away. "You're not fooling." Something deep and then welling up inside me. Was this really happening? Was he really this close, this invasive? Why wasn't I stopping him? I could feel my pulse racing as he took another step forward, his face inches from mine that was spinning, and I think washing me again. I felt the heat rise between us and overwhelming tension I had never experienced before. The air felt charged heavy with unspoken words, with possibilities that should never have crossed our minds. The door was still open, the world outside still spinning. But in that moment, it was just the two of us. The room seemed to close in the walls, pressing tighter and tighter. I was standing on the edge, my body trembling, caught between the weight of what was right and the burning temptation that was impossible to ignore. Aiden's presence seemed to consume the room, and my thoughts scattered like leaves in the wind. The heat between us was undeniable, and I could feel the pull growing stronger. Despite every part of me screaming to stop, he reached for me again, his hand gently resting on my shoulder. Dare! But this time I didn't pull away. I couldn't. Something inside me had shifted something I couldn't name. I knew it was wrong. I knew it was dangerous. But the desire, the tension had built to a point where I wasn't sure I could stop it, even if I wanted to. Aiden's voice was low, a whisper of temptation. I've always wanted you. Hit me like a wave crashing over me, drowning me in shock and disbelief. How had we gotten here? How would I let things go this far? But the moment I untumble, and I could feel this isn't right. I whispered the words, bear. The tension that had been building for so long was finally reaching its breaking point, and there was no way to stop it. I don't care anymore, Catherine. I want you and you want me. He pulled me closer, his lips brushing against my ear. And in that moment, I realized that everything had changed the boundaries. The rule po def, all gone. My eyes, the world spring around me. I was lost, trapped in this moment, with him unable to move, unable to think. The consequences of what we were about to do weighed heavily on me. But in this, all I could feel was the overwhelming need to be close to him, to feel him, to give in. But before anything could happen, I heard the sound of footsteps outside the bathroom. My heart skipped a beat, and I pulled away, panic flooding my veins. This wasn't just a forbidden moment anymore. Was I the door mined? Get out! I whispered to Aiden, my voice trembling with fear and guilt now. But as he stepped back, the holding us together now snapped, leaving us both standing on the precipice of something irreversible. What now? Will Catherine be able to hide the truth? Or will everything come crashing down like share and subscribe to find out what happens next? Just as I thought I had gained some control, a deep, gut-wrenching realization hit me. The footsteps outside the bathroom became closer, but they weren't from anybody. He was my spouse, the one person who had always been unaware of everything. I froze and yelled in fear, but there was no escape the implications of what we had nearly done. I stared at Aiden one final time. His face seemed confused about what to do. We were caught in neither. Stepped back, eyes wide, with fear and guilt. He knew it wasn't just a line we had crossed. It was a line that had changed everything as the door opened. I was faced with the last thing I expected, my husband standing in the doorway, holding his phone in his hand. Catherine, he said, his voice trembling. I was about to call you. I saw it all. I know what happened. My world tilted. I couldn't speak, couldn't move. The guilt crushed me, but so did the shock. He had seen us. He knew everything, but it wasn't just about seeing us. His next words shattered me completely. I saw your messages. Catherine, I saw everything. You've been hiding the affair. It's not just with Aiden. I stared at him, unable to process, was he talking about Aiden or was something else? My heart sank as he showed me the screen of his phone. There were words, photographs, and even films, things that I had forgotten about. I never intended to be caught. The reality was more worse than I had expected. The whole web of falsehoods was undone, and everything came tumbling down at once. I hope you are prepared for what is ahead. Catherine, my husband, murmured softly, his voice full of grief and rage. And just like that,
Subscribe to my channel.